Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome back to Tag Tuesday. Today I want to do the Deathbed Tag, which was created by Jason over at Old Blues Chapter and Verse and Lukas from Totally Pretentious. Ike doesn't like it. And Lukas from Totally Pretentious. And the idea behind the tag is that you're supposed to think about the things you would want to be surrounded with. Art, books, music, etc. Not necessarily people. That you want to be surrounded with if you are on your deathbed and lucid enough to make these decisions and to enjoy these things. So before I go any further, let me just say, if you find this topic upsetting, if you find this topic to be out of place with the Christmas season, then please don't watch. It is not my intention to be insensitive to people facing what for me is a hypothetical, but for them may be a real-life situation, nor is it, an attempt by me to spread gloom during the holiday season, during which I know a lot of people already struggle. But I do want to do the tag, first of all, because I find the topic to be interesting. Jason tagged me and was kind enough to do so and say he wanted to see my answers. And because in a strange way, I think this is a good way to get to know more about me. And as I've been on BookTube longer, I begun considering many of you to be my friends. And so, I'm not the most open person. I'm not the person who shares a tremendous amount about themselves or their feelings. And so this seems like a good opportunity for me to do that in a way which also tells you some things about me. So I do think that the tag is interesting in that it forces you to reflect on, what you think about your own death at the moment you are right now. Now there are a couple things to keep in mind, and Jason Lukas pointed this out. We have no way of knowing where we'll be, what situation we'll be in, if we'll even have a quote-unquote deathbed experience. Personally, I think that would be a lucky thing to be aware, to be lucid almost until the very end, and to have that opportunity to spend that time with your family and with the things and the people that you love. How incredibly lucky that would be. And then the other thing, is we're imagining these are things we'd want to read or look at, as we are right now. As 52 years old right now, these are the things I'd be interested in. If I'm lucky enough to live to be 60 or 70 or 80 or 90 or 100, that list might change. So this is kind of more stuff about who I am right now. The other thing I want to say is that what I hope, and in some ways this whole thing is about hope for those last moments. What I hope is that I spend as little of that time obsessing over the topic of death, over my own death, as possible. I have no idea if that will be true. I have no idea how brave I will be, what my behavior will be like. But what I would hope is, and this is what I'm going to talk to you about in the tag today, is I would spend that time celebrating the life that I lived, and remembering back on the things that brought me joy and made me happy. And so in a weird way, as morose as I realize this topic seems, for me, this topic allowed me to think about the things that truly make me happy, that fit all these categories. So one last caveat, obviously what I'd want to do is spend time with my wife and my kids. That's what I would want to do. I'd want to spend every possible moment. I realize that is not a part of the tag, and I think that Jason Lukas assumed that would be true, but I can't talk about what would give me joy in that moment without mentioning that. So the prompts are all about kind of art and movies and books and poetry and those kind of things. So that's what I'm going to address, and again, keep in mind that what I want is to be happy. And so they're things that were designed to make that true. So I don't have the prompts written down in order. I wrote them on this really official looking piece of paper here, and so I'm just going to go through with what the basic theme of the prompt was. So one of the prompts was, what movie would you want to watch? I don't think I'd want to watch any Hollywood movie at that moment. What I really love and what makes me happy when I find them on TV are those, I guess, for lack of a better term, documentaries where they just fly an airplane or a helicopter over a country, and they're called like Over Ireland or Over Scotland or Over the United States or wherever. I love those. I love those kind of God's eye views of the beautiful natural areas of the world they fly over, and I just think those things are brilliant, and I know that would make me happy. And I know that watching those would give me peace. And the last thing I would be thinking about probably would be my own death. Also, just as an aside, I have videos of my daughter playing basketball. She was a high school basketball player, and she's a college track athlete. And watching her compete athletically is one of the great joys of my life. And I would definitely be watching videos of my daughter throwing the hammer at her track meets. One of the next prompts is, what poems would you like to read or have read to you? I can only really think of two that in this situation which would be what I'd want. One is Shakespeare's Sonnet 29, which was read at my wedding, and it is, I think, the poem which for me, and I'm probably misinterpreting Shakespeare, kind of sums up how I feel about my wife, that despite all the misfortunes and horribleness and the weaknesses that I have, that when I'm with her, everything's okay, and my life is beyond value because I get to be with her. And then the other poem is just absolutely silly, and I have no real reason for it, but the first poem I thought about when I saw this tag was a poem by Robert Burns called My Heart is in the Highlands. Now, I'm not going to attempt the Scottish accent, but essentially some of the lines are, I believe, my heart is in the Highlands, it is not here. My heart is in the Highlands, a chasing after deer. I love it. I've never been to Scotland, but I've never seen something that I think more clearly evokes love of a place than that poem, and it makes me happy. The next prompt I'm going to talk about are the novels I'd want to be able to read or have read to me. I'm just going to go with Balzac here. Balzac creates incredibly complex characters and an incredibly complete world, and I think I would find that enjoyably distracting to be able to immerse myself in the world of Old Goriot or The Black Sheep. Those are two of the more uplifting Balzac novels, both of them kind of, in a sense, redemption stories. I would enjoy that probably the most. The next prompt is music, and this is where I just kind of went nuts. Because, and this is one of those things I think you're going to learn about me by watching the video, I really love music, and I like all kinds of music. You know, I am a high school teacher, and my students, invariably, somebody asks me every year, what kind of music do you like? And I say, I like all kinds of music. And the reason I say that is that I think that's pretty much true, which some of that will be reflected here. So the first piece of music I thought about when I thought about this prompt was Holt's The Planets, and specifically Jupiter, the Bringer of Jollity, which has some of the greatest French horn parts, I think, that exist in classical music. I love that. It gives me great joy. It always lifts my spirits, and I would definitely want to listen to that. Jason, I'm sorry, but part of what I want to listen to would be jazz. I realize you have a physically negative reaction to listening to jazz music, but I love it. The two things I could think about that I want to listen to the most are the Bill Evans Trio, live at the Village Vanguard, and then I believe A Waltz for Debbie. These are two live recordings made in the mid-late 50s by the Bill Evans Trio, literally live at, you know, a venue that's more or less a bar, and it's great. The music is incredibly beautiful to me, and you can hear conversations of customers and the wait staff and glasses clinking, and it's just really wonderfully atmospheric, both of those albums. And then I want to listen to Miles Davis's Kind of Blue, which is probably a well-known jazz album, but my favorite Miles Davis. Definitely those three albums give me joy. And then going into kind of more popular music, I'd really want to listen to Chris Cornell's Nothing Compares to You, which is an acoustic recording of the Prince song made famous by Sinead O'Connor, which he recorded slightly before he took his own life. Chris Cornell is my favorite rock singer. I love Soundgarden, I love Audio Slave, and I love this recording of Nothing Compares to You. It is one of the most beautiful vocal performances I can think of. In addition, there are several Peter Gabriel songs I'd like to listen to, like to hear. In Your Eyes, Salisbury Hill, I Have the Touch, among them. Some Prince songs I would really like to listen to that remind me of high school and my wife, who I knew in high school. That would be 1999, Let's Go Crazy, Raspberry Beret, Little Red Corvette, and just a lot of the big Prince hits, When Doves Cry, Purple. Anyway, you get the impression that would bring me joy. I also, one of the things, my favorite high school band was Rush, and I'd for sure want to listen to Red Barchetta over and over again, which is just an incredibly upbeat, kind of actually a science fiction story related to 1984. That I really love that song. It's one of the perfect rock and roll songs in my opinion. I like to listen to really loud music, and this is weird, but oftentimes angry sounding music makes me happy, so Rage Against the Machine would have to be in here. I think that Guerrilla Radio, Bomb Track, Renegades of Funk would be three songs I definitely want to listen to from Rage. And then maybe top that all off with, I guess, the only kind of sad sounding song would be 46 and 2 by Tool. Tool is one of my kind of late in life favorite rock bands. I'm sure I'm leaving some stuff out here. There's all kinds of music I'd want to listen to, but all those pieces of music in some way lift my spirits, give me joy, make me happy. One of the other prompts is, what piece of art would you like to listen to, like a physical artworks you'd like to listen to, or you'd like to see in the situation. Mark Nash mentioned his love for the work of Mark Rothko, and I echo that. Mark Rothko is one of my favorite painters. I like abstract expressionism, and Rothko and Franz Klein are my two favorite abstract expressionists. And Mark said he would like to be able to go to the Rothko Chapel here in Houston. I have the geographic advantage on him in that area, and I've been, and I would definitely want to experience that again. Just huge panels, canvas panels of dark, textured, layered paintings in black and purples and deep dark greens, and it's set in a reverential chapel space where it's just really you and the silence aside from the air conditioning, because it is Houston, and the artwork. And it's one of the most beautiful places that I've been, and I would definitely want to experience that again. What religious text? The next prompt is, what religious text would you want to have at hand? The Upanishads, I think I've mentioned this before, that of all the religious texts in the world, that's the one which I think has the most meaning for me, and has helped provide me with comfort and happiness, and helped me to kind of change my thinking and hopefully change my behavior. I'd certainly want to have that to consult and just read the passages that over the years I've underlined and drawn stars next to, which are the most meaningful to me. And then finally, the last prompt is, what other kind of work of art or physical representation of art or something like that you'd like to have around. You can probably tell by looking at me that I really like to eat, so my artwork, physical artwork I'd want to have around with me would be food. There are a number of things that my wife cooks. Her vegetable beef soup, which she makes on Christmas Day, and which I have to admit I probably eat gallons of over the Christmas holidays. I love that. But her pumpkin bars are one of the best things any human being makes, and I just love them. And so I would want to have my wife's pumpkin bars. I would love to be able to eat sushi with my son. This is actually one of the best kind of repeated bonding moments that I have with my son. We both love sushi, and we oftentimes go out to eat sushi. And I know this is going to sound a little weird, but one of the great things about eating sushi with my son is seeing him take pleasure in eating something that he loves and then reciprocating, because we each have our own favorite pieces of sushi, which we have a tendency to save until last, and it is just a joy to go and eat sushi with my son. By the way, I forgot to mention this in terms of writing. I think my son is a brilliant writer, and anything he wrote, it could just be the most boring essay. Not that it would be boring, but the essay on the most boring topic, and I would love to get a chance to read that again. I forgot to mention that with the novel. Anyway, there you go. There's my take on the Deathbed tag. Hopefully, in that situation, if I'm lucky enough to have it, I will celebrate living and the wonderful life that I've actually lived. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments section below, and as always, thank you for watching.